Chapter 54 The Death Crisis. What do you mean this isn't the first time I ask? Astounded at this new information, Raven. My son isn't the first to be given this curse. It may be rare, but not the first case of it, Blake announces to me, closely walking towards the nearest window. Many eons ago, a foolish sorcerer's apprentice had this curse. That's how the world saw it anyway, a curse. The apprentice. He thought it was the most extraordinary gift he could ever have been given. For his whole life he was brandished an outcast. He wanted revenge on the wizard's circle. And that's exactly what he did. What do you mean? I asked Blake, knitting my eyebrows together in confusion. I know you may believe that dear old dad was always on top of his game, keeping the underworld up to his standards. But I'm afraid you need to think otherwise. There was a time when Dad had to go to extreme measures to keep the underworld going. And it's all because of the stupid apprentice. Blake hissed the words out, almost as if they were poison on his tongue. Father would never allow that to happen, I say in denial, folding my arms over my chest like a spoiled child. That apprentice went on a killing spree. He felt power surge through him after every kill. He killed the wizard's circle with fire in his eyes. That's when Dad stepped in. He had created a special black crystal which was forged in the river Styx. And, because it contained this water from the lost souls, it prevented any magic linked with death to be used. So the curse was kept at bay, and the apprentice foolishly ran with his tail between his legs. But if this crystal worked, why not make one for Edward the First? Inquire. Utterly confused because Raven, only the god of death can make one. And my pride is too large for me to ask my dad for assistance. Not that he'd help me anyway. He puffs out his chest as the words slip from his tongue. Honestly, his head's too big for his body. Then what threw Father off his game, I ask? Returning back to his story. The deaths the apprentice made threw the underworld off balance. Practically all of the Reapers had to go out into the world and escort the souls back to the underworld. Even Styx himself was busy that day, due to all these souls appearing in the underworld that were not destined to be there in the first place. Dad had to use a very old tradition that had been forbidden by the fates. But he was left with no choice. So he returned the souls back to Earth in new forms. And that was how the method of being reborn was brought back. Brought back, I hear Harriet ask from alongside me. Yes, brought back. Are you deaf as well as dead? Blake sneers at the witch. She did kidnap his son after all. Well, if this method has been brought back, then my life isn't over. Harriet exclaims with hope in her eyes. I turn to catch Blake's gaze and realize that what the witch is asking for is easier said than done. Easy there, which Blake spits out, taking a deep breath, and it was brought back. But that doesn't mean it's used after all. It was banned by the fates. And our father is quite commonly known to be on the fates' permanent bad side. He did elope with a human after all. Immortal, I budge in correcting him. What can I say? It's the little details. You sure you want to get involved, Blue Eyes? Blake says, raising an eyebrow in my direction. Subconsciously, I lower my eyes to the ground. I had completely forgotten my situation here. Blake, what was the point of this story anyway? Sarah huffs, looking longingly at the door, knowing her little baby is just beyond it. I thought my point should have been obvious by now. Seriously, none of you get it? He asks frustratedly, turning to each of us. I thought you were supposed to be the smart one. Blake seethes in my direction. Gulping, I think back over his words. What connection could there possibly be with his story? The only connection I can think of is just proving that Edward isn't the first to have discovered this curse. Is Father the one to blame or something? I just don't understand. What on earth is Blake hinting at? Why am I not understanding this? I am the smart one after all. I'm the future heir to the underworld throne. So why does this all seem to be blowing over my head? What could this story possibly mean? But if that's not the right answer, then what is? As I'm pondering through my thoughts, the door barges open and in comes Rain with an evil glint. How did you get out? He screams, looking at the two ghosts in the room. Harriet's face turns stone cold at the sight of her so-called father, while Sarah seems to be petrified, as if he's the ghost instead of her. How ironic. I stare at Rain a moment longer, and then it hits me. Oh no, I gasp out, impulsively taking a step away from the wizard. Blake lets out a dark chuckle at my revelation. So the pennies finally dropped. Hasn't it, my dear sister? He says, smirking towards Rain. What on earth are you playing at, boy? Rain says, marching over to my brother. Nothing really, Blake shrugs for a moment. The whole room is silent. Not a word is spoken for the next 5 minutes. I'm too shocked to speak. Sarah is too scared to move. Harriet just simply glares at Rain. Whilst my brother and the wizard seem to have a staring contest between themselves. But that's when the silence comes tumbling down as Blake utters one word. Apprentice Chapter 55, A Blue Lining. Have you ever wondered how easy it is for something to come to an end? Have you ever thought that one day you could be speaking to someone, and then the next day they're gone, vanished, disappeared? That's how I feel at this exact moment in time. I feel as if I no longer know who my own brother is. Then again, this isn't exactly an unfamiliar feeling. I've never truly known who my brother is. I didn't even know who Rain was, but he did. He's always been one step ahead of me. Why do I feel obliged to forget about this, though? Is it because he's the only family member I have left? Or is it because I'm going through a dire situation? I don't know how to break this to myself, let alone anyone else, but my eyes are now fully blue. There's not even a trace of darkness in them. They're blue, and that's all there is to it. Maybe I'm so shocked that my eyes turned blue, because that's all I see staring back at me in the cracked mirror on the wall. I guess I'm just trying to process the fact that Rain has been hiding so much more than I thought. I truly underestimated him. What on earth are you talking about? Rain grits out, staring daggers into my brother's eyes. You know exactly what I mean. You're the cursed apprentice, where Blake says. Chuckling, Rain lunges for Blake's throat, grasping it between his large hands. Be careful what you say, boy, Rain sneers. Lifting Blake higher from the ground. I can't die, Blake splutters out, his face growing red. Maybe not, but you can feel pain, Rain says. His eyes growing darker. For a moment I'm frozen. What do I do? Should I help him? Or should I leave him to feel the pain he so rightfully deserves? Damn these blue eyes, I charge at Rain, knocking him over, which allows his grip to loosen on Blake long enough for him to break free. Rain, how dare you? I hear a voice come from towards the door. Impulsively, everyone in the room turns to glance at a red-faced crow. If I wasn't feeling so woozy, I would be able to see the steam coming from her ears. How dare you lay your hand on my son? Crow beams, marching over to him. He was asking for it, Rain says as he stands up, dusting himself off, asking for it. I thought I made it clear that you do not lay a single hand on my children. We're not your kids, I spit out myself, standing up. Crow turns to me, the anger in her face slowly being replaced by one of shock. Raven, what happened to your eyes? She says, reaching her hands towards my face quickly. I smack them away. I don't want her filthy hands touching me. She slowly turns back to face her wizard boyfriend. I mean it, Rain. Don't ever lay a single hand on these children again. Especially with Raven's condition, Crow says. Sighing, I think over her words. Anger rilling up inside of me. Condition, I say, in anger and shock. You think this is some sort of condition? An illness or something? Is that what you're implying? Because frankly, it's much more than a condition. But you wouldn't know that, would you? You haven't raised me, so you wouldn't know anything about me. Raven, sweetheart. Don't ever call me that, I say through gritted teeth. Raven, this isn't normal. Your eyes shouldn't be blue. They should be red like your brother's. If you ever knew me, you'd know my eyes have never truly been normal, I say, my voice turning almost to a whisper. I take a step back from the scene and try to concentrate. If only I was stable enough, I could summon my scythe. Everything becomes a blur as I try to stabilize myself. The voices in the room turn to mumbles as I scrunch my eyebrows in concentration. If only I could just be able to do this and summon my scythe. I could escape, but nothing is working. Why must I be so weak? Why must I be so different? Why couldn't I have been born normal? For a moment there's silence. It's quiet, too quiet. I look up to see everyone staring at me. Did I say that out loud, Raven? You were never destined to be normal, Crow says, carefully glancing between me and Rain. My attention turns to Rain and I find him chuckling. Why is he finding this funny? Oh, this is precious, he blurts out, laughing uncontrollably. Rain, Crow says, almost as if it was a warning. What is so funny? I ask, turning to Blake. But it's his reaction that is alarming. Those eyes of concern that I witnessed before. They've returned, but my eyes are already fully blue. What else could be so worrying, you poor child? Rain says, sneering at me. You're oblivious to all of this, aren't you? What's going on? You should be careful what you wish for, Miss Reaper. Because I believe your wish may have come true, Rain says. Slowly he turns his head to the cracked mirror on the wall. I too turn my attention towards it. And within the wooden frame I see a human. That's right, a human, it's not me at least. It's not my Reaper reflection instead. There's an all too familiar crimson streak in my hair. One that I haven't seen for months, yet there it is. Staring right back at me. I turn to Crow to see that shock has taken over her. Am I naturally turning into a mortal? Is that why it was so easy for Luke to cause me pain earlier? If my deduction is correct. That means I've been slowly deteriorating ever since Ally first turned me to a mortal. Which is why it would explain my human emotions. A slow clap echoes the room. Clap, clap, clap. Well, look at that. I do believe our sacrifice is ready, Rain says. An evil glint in his eyes. Chapter 56, The Devil's Eye, Leo's POV. It's been 2 days already and still there's no sign of the Reaper siblings. I don't know what to do. I can't go home knowing that somewhere Raven could be lying dead in a ditch. She's my best friend. I can't abandon her at a time like this. Why did it have to be her? She's done so much for me in the past. I suppose it's my turn to repay all my debts to her. Sighing, I lean back on the sofa in Callum and Ally's home. I've been here ever since Raven and Blake disappeared. After all I needed to get Ally home. I suppose I just never got around to leaving. Flyboy followed meekly as well. He's been trying to track them down, but so far, he's come up blank. He can't even find the kid either. It's almost like they've disappeared off the face of the earth. That is, if they are even on Earth. Leo, are you okay? I hear Ally's broken voice call out to me. I lift my head up to meet her dull eyes. She hasn't been taking this well either, in fact. She's been very stressed lately. I just don't understand, I say out of defeat. I've never normally had this much trouble to track her down. But if the messenger god himself can't even find her, who can have you heard off of Raven's dad? She asks me. I was waiting for this question. I could tell she wanted to ask me this as soon as the incident happened. But the truth is I can't bring myself to tell him. More to the point, does he even deserve to know? I mean, after all, Raven can't trust him anymore. Does that mean I shouldn't either? Per Grimm, though. I get that he did horrible things, but he was a victim of betrayal by his one true love. Not that I'd know what that's like, but I can imagine it's tough. What I don't understand is, where did that Reaper kid go? Blake definitely didn't bring him to the underworld, and Hermes is struggling to detect him again. I bet that wizard boy is behind this. Something just doesn't feel right. It's odd. Too odd and convenient. How could Blake feel the need to desperately abandon his son to aid his sister? It just doesn't make sense. He'd only blindly leave his son in the hands of a stranger if there was an emergency. But Raven has been deteriorating for quite some time. That was no surprise. He knows something. He's got something hidden in that dark abyss of a mind. And I will uncover it, don't you worry, Blakey boy. I'm coming for you as well as your sister, Leo. I hear Ally's voice call out once again. I ask. Connecting my gaze with hers. You blanked out. Have you told the god of death? Don't call him that. Call him Grimm or Thano, not the god of death. That's too formal. I've never liked formal situations. That's why I'm Leo and not Leonardo. That's also why you're Ally and not Allison. It's also why Leonardo. Ally shouts out. Her voice echoing around the room used my full name. Ironic after I just told her I didn't like it. Then again, she did want my attention. But now she has it. How did you know my name is Allison? She asked in a shaky voice. I know everything about you. It's kinda my job, you know. Since you are a goddess of some sorts. Raven doesn't know, probably doesn't realize. I bet your little boyfriend doesn't either. But I saw those documents from the orphanage. Ivy never told anyone my real name, since Ally can be a name on its own. Yes, but you forget your real name, Charmaine, I say. With a smirk at the corner of my mouth. Please don't call me that. I'm not some savior like you all say I am. Especially after all the problems I've caused. Ally said, looking at the ground beneath her, sighing. I stand up and walk slowly towards her. I wrap an arm around her shoulders and pull her towards me, all in an attempt to comfort her. I get that you didn't choose this life. Funnily enough, I understand it more than you think. So does Raven deep down, I say, looking out into the distance through the closest window. What do you mean? I hear Ally mumble, and I tilt my gaze towards her as she breaks our small huddle. You don't think Raven and I honestly wanted to be the next god and goddess of hell and the underworld, did you? I say, arching an eyebrow upwards. Well, kind of. At least I thought Raven really wanted to. She takes her duty so seriously, I say, interrupting her since I know exactly where this conversation was going. She nods as I once again look outwards of the window. There was once a time when Raven was brought up with no future set out for her. It was only when she turned around 13 that her life drastically changed. Blake was losing interest in his duties and would often rebel against his father. Raven won't admit it, but she pitied her dad and became the obedient child he had always wanted. I didn't know her until she had started her Reaper training, but I know deep down she didn't ask for this. She seemed so distant as a 13-year-old, and it was only when she turned 15 that things really took its toll on her. I suppose Blake's disappearance is also to blame for that, I say solemnly as I return my gaze to her sapphire eyes. She never wanted this. Ally stutters out in shock as her eyes go wide whilst her brain processes everything I've just told her. Being a demigod isn't as easy as it sounds, I say with a small smile. That's certainly unexpected, Ally said as she sat herself down on the sofa beside us. I join her and stare at the floor as we sit there in deadly silence. Not one of us spoke, we just sat there thinking. I know for certain that Raven has had to go through so much more than I have. Especially to her age. I know we're immortal and all that. But at the end of the day, she is just a 16-year-old girl. Just because she has special powers doesn't mean she has to face talk of war and such. But I will always support her. There's no doubt about that in my mind. The front door soon swings open as a tired-looking Hermes presents himself in front of us. I think I've found them, he says, resting his hands on his knees. Ally and I hurriedly make our way over to him, with concern written on her face and anger on mine. It took you long enough, I yell, whilst Ally glares at me as she goes over to comfort the tired god. It's okay, catch your breath, then tell us. We wait as the wimpy god huffs and puffs until he finally raises his blonde head of hair to look into my fiery eyes. She's in limbo, chapter 57. Limbo, I'm sorry. Did you just say sacrifice? Crow screams out, glaring at Rain. Well, yes. In order to control a powerful gift such as the touch of death, sacrifices must be made, Rain says nonchalantly, walking towards the murky glass window. But why, Raven? She had so much power. Why on earth would you just throw that away? Crow grits out through her teeth. It almost sounded like she was concerned, and those words were coming from her black heart. Almost. Don't you think that's a threat to my power? Your power, it's ours. No, my dear. I'm afraid you've gotten it wrong, Rain says, chuckling. What on earth do you mean? He means you've been tricked, Mother, Blake says, watching the wizard intently. You mean to tell me all these years you've been using me? Everyone's attention is turned to Rain, who had his back facing us. Slowly he turns around for us to witness his maniacal facial expression. You're a powerful sorceress, Crow. You had the heart of the god of death wrapped around your delicate finger. How could I not use you? You were the key to destroying my enemy, by taking away the one thing he loved most. He crumbled, and then his eldest son abandoned him. It was all going so perfect. He'd be left completely alone except for her. She wouldn't leave, Rain says, turning his attention towards me with a piercing glare. I look him dead in the eye and just smile. Since I can now do that and all, what do you expect? Raven's always been a daddy's girl, Blake mutters from the corner of the room. Well, not for long. He's not going to want you now that you're human, Rain sneers at me before turning towards my brother. I've got to admit, Blake, you've always intrigued me. Would you ever consider taking your mother's place? It would be easier after all since you'd be with your son, Rain says, smirking as he catches Crow's gobsmacked expression from the corner of his eye. For a long while Blake remained silent, almost as if he was actually considering the offer. Surely he wasn't right. He wouldn't abandon me again, would he? No, of course not. He's assured me he cares for me and everything. There's no way on earth he'd leave me. What would the role consist of? Blake questions, leaving me speechless again and again with this boy. He just keeps betraying me. I suppose I shouldn't be that surprised since this is what? The 5th time he's done it. You'd be my right-hand man, of course. We're like you and I. And do I need to mention the power you'll be receiving from this? Silence fills the room as Blake surveys his options. He looks from Rain to me, then Rain again. On one condition, he announces in front of all of us. Rain smirks as he motions for him to continue, grinning at me like the Cheshire Cat. The sacrifice isn't Raven, his words shock me. I was so quick to judge he does care, Blake. Don't you understand how long I've been intending to use her for? Who else would be a decent sacrifice, Rain roars. Clearly annoyed. I turn to Blake as he looks at me and his gaze reassures me. He walks over to Rain and pats him on the shoulder. He then whispers in his ear and his eyes light up at his words. Why, that's genius. You truly are just like me, he grins. Turning his attention to Crow. Why are you looking at me like that, Crow asks, glaring back at her now ex-lover. Blake here came up with a better sacrifice, you. Rain says, breaking out into a chuckle. What, why me? Crow screams, taking a few steps backwards. Rain advances towards her until he has her pinned against the wall. He leans in closer, whispering in her ear. Death still loves you, my dear. To take you away from him would be the best revenge I could ever ask for, Rain says. A smirk etching across his face. Crow's eyes widen in fear. How could he do this to her? Even I thought he loved her then again. You can never trust a wizard. Especially one that messes with the dark arts. That's impossible. He can't still love me, can he? Crow asks, her voice almost breaking off into a whisper. Think about it, Mother, Blake spat, glaring at her. What are you implying? I ask through gritted teeth. I don't believe what he's saying. He's the god of death. Why are you still alive if he hates you so much? Silence filled the room, processing the information. My brother had a point, but at the same time, he didn't because of the rules, Blake. He can't kill whoever he wants without breaking the balance. And you know how strict he is when it comes to the balance, I say. Creating a flaw in his earlier statement. Oh, come on, Raven, he's the god of death. If he really hated someone or thought they were a threat to his family, he would have killed them without batting an eyelid, Blake announces, raising an eyebrow towards me as if I should have already known that. But what he said was true. He is a god, for heaven's sake. Why couldn't I see this before? Perhaps I just liked playing oblivious. I didn't want to see the truth. See, Crow dear. He still loves you. Now it's your time in this world to end, don't worry. I'm sure your soul will find its way to good old Thanatos. That is, unless something terrible happens. Rain bursts into a bellowing laughter as Crow's eyes go wide with fear. But I should be celebrating this moment. Crow was finally going to be put to an end. She'd be gone out of my life forever, but deep down, I know this would crush my father. He'd be devastated, but it serves him right. It's his fault in the first place for falling for a human. She can be gone for all I care. But there's a little part of me that doesn't want this to happen. I don't want my father to get hurt, even if he lied to me my entire life. And even though I may hate my mother, would I really want her dead? Damn this human body. Chapter 58. Goodbye, Mother. Without realizing what I'm doing, I leap towards the woman known as my mother and push Rain away from her. He stumbles backwards a few steps before his gaze connects with mine. I don't think you'll be getting that sacrifice anytime soon, I say, straightening myself up and shielding Crow from his view. Rain smirks as he watches the scene unfold in front of him. I can hear Blake take a step towards me from my side, but I raise my hand in his direction, telling him to stop. This is my fight and I will win. Are you sure you want to do this, little Reaper? You hate your mother, don't you? My gaze finds itself looking at the ground beneath my feet. He's not wrong, but he's not right either. You can't stand that woman. You know she's only using you, don't you? Using me. Is this really the best he can do? I find my lips curling upwards after his previous words. Rain, since you seem to know me oh so well, then you also know I'm stubborn. Rain drops his previous smirk and just blankly stares at me, taking in my words. I'm not the type to give up easily now, am I? This is it. The ball is now in my court, Rain. I've got you exactly where I want you, yes. Crow and I have had our little fights. But as much as I hate to admit it, she is the woman that gave birth to me. Be grateful. Giving birth to a demigod wasn't easy. I hear Crow mutter from behind me. So tell me, Rain, what exactly is your plan now? For a few moments, only silence passes. Rain staring at me. Me staring back. Blake probably looking confused, thinking I'm an idiot for doing this, and Crow hoping whatever I am doing will keep her light shining just a little bit longer. Be careful, Raven, Rain says, ripping his gaze from me to look out the window. I hear Crow hold in a breath as she watches Rain begin to pace around the room. I turn to look at Blake and watch as his jaw clenches in anticipation. Don't you know messing with fire can lead you to be burned? Rain says, cocking his head in my direction. Trust me, I've had my fair share of flames. I'm not backing down, Rain. My best friend is the son of the devil. My father is the god of death. I am the daughter of the Grim Reaper. Now I'll ask again, what is your move, I say, arching an eyebrow in his direction. Rain looks at me, his eyes narrowing. I knew it. He doesn't have a plan, it was all just a bluff. He's stupid if he thinks he can beat him. You're still human, Raven. Rain turns towards me and smiles. You're weak like this, you know that. Weak? Am I? The human body is a very fragile machine. It just takes one small thing to make everything go wrong. I watch as Rain raises his left hand up towards his face. Yet his gaze never falters from mine. Something like this, perhaps. Rain clicks his fingers, and a sharp pain flows through my body. I clutch my chest as I fall to the ground, shaking. I hear someone run to my side, but I can't open my eyes. The pain is invigorating. I've never felt anything like it. Voices begin to blur around me, but I can just about hear Rain laughing. And was that a bang? Did I hear a bang, Raven? Where does it hurt? Who said that? Why can't I hear anyone? Thump, thump. Thump is my heart racing. Thump, thump, thump. Am I scared? What's happening to me? Hey, stay with me, Raven. You're not going anywhere just yet. But at that point, I allowed the black void to swallow me up whole. It hurt a lot, but I didn't allow it to take away my consciousness. I simply allowed it full control over my mortal body. The pain had won. Rain had won, or did he? There was that unusual bang that I couldn't explain. And then who was it that was comforting me? For some reason I highly doubt that it was Crow or Blake, for that matter. Something just didn't feel right about it. Raven. That soft, comforting voice. Who could it possibly belong to? Quickly smash that orb now, and just like that, the pain vanished along with the sound of glass shattering against the floor. My head aches, but I can feel my senses slowly returning. I can feel someone's arms wrapped around me. I feel more my patience was wearing thin. I needed to know who it was that was holding me, comforting me, but when I opened my eyes, I was shocked. There were a few more people in the room now, and I recognized all of them. Ally was stood shivering in the doorway, and Leo was seemingly holding Rain against his will as he pinned him to the wall. Then there was my dear brother kneeling over a corpse. Taking a closer look, I soon realized that the corpse was none other than the very woman I tried saving only moments before. Crow was dead, and when I finally looked away, my eyes connected with one person I didn't want to see. The one person I thought I'd banished from my life. In fact, it's impossible for them to be here. Surely they weren't as stupid as to come back. But sure enough, here they were in the flesh, comforting me of all people. I'm practically the princess of darkness. Yet when I looked into their eyes, my heart started racing. My eyes subconsciously traced the curve in their lips, watching as they pulled upwards in a smile directed at me. A smile I thought I would never see again. And with that thought in mind, there was only one word I could utter: Luke. Chapter 59: Newborn Problems. It has been a few weeks since my mother died. It's all still a hazy memory to me, though. I soon found out what that bang was. It was none other than Leo breaking down the door to get to us. To me. Apparently he barged in just as Rain was charging an attack at me. But instead Crow jumped in front of me. I was shocked to hear it myself. Perhaps she did care for me after all. But what I couldn't understand was why Leo has brought Luke along with him. He knew I never wanted to see his face again. But when I saw him, I didn't hate it. It was almost like I had missed him. Is it possible to miss someone you thought you hated? Regardless, my drama with Luke can wait. I have a bigger problem on my hands. Blake's son, for instance. And this whole otherworldly war that's brewing. I was in the midst of recruiting, after all. Who knew the Vampire King would be my biggest concern above everything? Even Rain. Currently, the sorcerer is locked somewhere in the underworld, and my father has personally thrown away the key. I'm more concerned why the god of death is allowing that cretin to live rather than just kill him on the spot. But of course, there's always that annoying issue with the balance. So that could explain it. There has been no news about the Vampire King. I'm assuming he's biding his time for as long as possible. Why do I feel like he's planning something? Something big as well. Something that could possibly lead to my demise. But we will worry about that later. For now, I must maintain my duties as future goddess of the underworld, since it's clear Blake will not be taking over the throne. Raven, how are you feeling today? I'm snapped out of my thoughts as Ally steps into the room. She's been staying here ever since I was rescued. I think she feels somewhat guilty since she led to me being immortal and all. Empty, I reply, looking out my bedroom window. You know, Leo's in the throne room waiting to see you. He said he's got something important to tell you. So I thought I'd let you know how urgent he is. Leo is and always will be a drama queen. He is probably exaggerating how urgent he needs to see me. I am not a drama queen, Leo says. Storming into the room. Would you prefer drama king or prince? I say, sarcastically, rolling my eyes. I actually do have something important to tell you about Adam. But if you would like me to just take my drama elsewhere, I will, for the love of death. Will you just get to the point? I've had word that the reason we haven't seen Adam leave his home is because he was never there to begin with. Wait, does that mean? He's on the move, Ally suddenly says, speaking up with a frightened tone. I knew something didn't feel right. Ally needs to be under supervision now constantly. She needs someone with her at all times. Maybe even two. Leo, did you tell Callum about this? Not yet. I thought it was best I tell you first. Raven, I actually have something to tell you. Ally starts fidgeting as Leo and I turn towards her. Ally Leo looks at her with concern, whereas I have an idea of what she could possibly be about to say. I'm pregnant. You're pregnant, Leo yells out. Thank you for letting the whole underworld know. Drama queen, I say, rolling my eyes. Why aren't you shocked about this? Leo says. Turning to me, I was expecting it to happen. Now the question is how to get rid of it. Excuse me. Did you just say get rid of it? Ally asks me. I simply nod in annoyance as I start scrambling for a solution. I will do no such thing. I want to keep the baby. That's when I burst into a fit of laughter. She can't be serious, can she? Doesn't she know the consequences, Ally darling? You are not keeping that abomination unless you can prove to me that the baby does not belong to a certain vampire king. But Raven, I heard DNA tests can be harmful to the baby, and that baby could be harmful to the whole universe. I told you when you first mentioned that you were late for your period that if you were pregnant with Adam's child, it would give it power to end all life as we know it. But it could be Callum's baby too again. If you can prove to me that the baby is his, I won't harm a hair on its head, but trust me, Ally. You could have a little devil brewing inside you right now. And I am not leaving it there to grow and manifest power stronger than my own. What's wrong with the little devil? Leo asks. Dumbfounded. Really not the time, your dramaticness. Will you stop using that against me? I am not a drama queen. I'll stop using it against you as soon as you stop acting like one. Will you two stop it? Ally shouts out. We both turn to her confused. This is my body. And my baby? I am the only one that will decide what I want to do with it. And I want to keep this baby. And I will make sure that when they are born, they are healthy. Ally, I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying. Raven, I appreciate exactly what you're saying. I know your concerns lie elsewhere, but if the baby turns out to be what we fear, we will cross that bridge when we get to it. Death is not always the solution. You're saying that to a reaper, you know that, right? Death is all they know, Leo exclaims. Rolling his eyes, Ally, I will only say this once. If that baby does turn out to be his, I will not hold back any mercy. And I will kill it for the greater good. Chapter 60 Birthright. Well, frankly, Raven, being the daughter of death does not give you any power over me or my child. I am not dead, therefore you do not rule over me. The only person who gets to decide what happens is me. This child is growing inside of my body, my rules. I will control what happens to my child whether you like it or not. You aren't thinking straight, Ally. Listen. You are a dear friend of mine, and someone I would never wish harm to. But that child could be the key to letting the Vampire King win this war, which everyone seems to forget is still happening. Just because I was absent for a few weeks doesn't mean the war is suddenly called off. This is real life, Ally, and the real world is dangerous. Do you really want to birth a child during all this chaos regardless of the father? Your child would be your weakness. Even if it wasn't the Vampire King's child, that doesn't mean it would be safe from him. Adam wants you, and he would stop at nothing to get you, even if it meant stealing your child. Do you really want your own flesh and blood to be used against you like that? You can't guilt-trip me like that. I'm not a naive little girl anymore. I'm fully aware what this hell we call Earth is. This is nothing like hell, Leo scoffs. Not the point. Earth hasn't been flawless since the day mankind was born. It's never been truly safe. There are psychopaths that want to do unimaginable things to a child. And mothers are fully aware of this. But that doesn't stop them. You want to know why, Raven? I look into her eyes that are suddenly filled with a fire I cannot extinguish. Her blue eyes burn right through me as she expectantly awaits a response. And why is that? Because a mother's love is unconditional. A mother's love is protective. Nothing can ever break a mother's love for their child. And that will be no different with me. I will protect this child with my own life if I have to. This child will be born. And they will have an amazing life ahead of them despite the circumstances. That's ironic coming from an orphan, I blurt out. But soon regret my own words. The fire in those sapphire eyes dim for just a moment. But then blaze back up. Leo looks at me with disgust in his eyes. Is the devil's son really mad with me over saying what is true? My mother made a sacrifice so I could live. And so did my sister. All my life I believed that my mother never loved me. I spent years thinking and endless nights crying, wondering why I wasn't good enough. Why I wasn't good enough to be in her life. But then I found out who my real mother was. I found out she did what she did to give me my best chance. And my child's best chance is with me and Callum. I don't care who the father may be. Did it ever cross your mind that perhaps we could use this power for good? Out of the question, dark magic will always be dark. You cannot change fate, ally. How would you know? Have you ever tried? That is enough, ally. Will you just listen to me for once? You may be part angel, but you still have much to learn about magic. When that baby is born, I will decide its fate. I don't care about your mother's intuition. If I deem that child as a danger to our world, I will destroy it. I watch as tears brim in Ally's eyes. And before she can say anything else, I snap my fingers and she vanishes in a plume of smoke. Sighing, I rub my temples and fall into the nearest chair. My power is still slowly returning to me. And transporting Ally home really took it out of me. Are you satisfied with yourself, Raven? I hear Leo speak up. You're still here. I thought you would have followed little Miss Goody Goody home. What happened to you, Raven? You were changing. You were becoming good. Are you telling me your old Reaper ways are retuning? I don't know what you are trying to insinuate, Leonardo. But I can assure you my old ways never left. They just lay dormant for a while. Well, perhaps they should have stayed that way. Look at what is becoming of you. You just threatened one of your best friends, Raven. She is going to have such a hard time during this pregnancy. And she certainly didn't need the fear of someone she once trusted threatens to kill the baby at any moment. I am only doing what is right. You may think that what you are doing is right, but you still have so much to learn before you can truly understand the meaning of righteousness. That's rich coming from the spawn of Satan. Your birthright doesn't define you, Raven. You of all people should know that. I hope you listen to my words carefully. You can still make this right, Ally will understand. I am not apologizing if that is what you are implying. Maybe Ally is wrong about you. Maybe there was no good in you to begin with. Goodbye, Raven. Leo, wait, but I was too late. I watched as his amber eyes vanished along with him. I knew where he went, but I will not follow him. I know deep down that I am doing what is right. You cannot win a battle against fate. Many have tried, but none have succeeded. And I will not waste my time trying to change destiny when I can just avoid it altogether. My old ways were never gone. They have always been deep within me. You can't teach an old dog new tricks after all. And I grew up with these ideals. To change them would be difficult, but what if I am wrong? Is that even a possibility? I suppose only the fates know what is in store for us. For now I will just bide my time. Something is about to happen, I can sense it. And it's something bad that I know. Chapter 61. A visit from hell. Am I insane? Am I utterly bonkers? No, Raven. Now is not the time to be doubting yourself. Then again, if I wasn't doubting myself, I wouldn't be sat on the endless plains in the underworld. It's quiet here for a place full of death. You'd think it would always be quiet, sadly. There's always a few souls crying out to be rescued. Or some crap like that. They don't realize how fortunate they are to even be able to do that. Most souls down here don't even know who they are anymore. That's the problem with humans. They never appreciate anything, not life, not death. Ungrateful beings, if you ask me. I still hate the thought that I fell for one. Like father, like daughter, I suppose. Oh, this is hopeless. Even when it's quiet, I can't think. Struggling, Raven. A voice says behind me immediately. I turn around and I am met with the fire-blazing eyes of Lucifer. I didn't think the plains of the dead were to your liking, Lucifer. Is there anything I can help you with? I believe it is I that can help you. My son seemed rather distressed after his meeting with you. I'd hardly call it a meeting, I say, rolling my eyes. To me, Raven, you are very much the same child I met all those years ago in hell. You haven't changed at all. I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't call me a child. My father doesn't see me that way. Your father has seen many things in all his years. But one thing he could not bear was seeing both his children grow up. You are still a child in his eyes. As Leonardo is in mine, children don't go to war. But children pretend they do, Raven. Has your father ever spoken to you about this war? No, he trusts me to handle it. Wars cause a lot of death and destruction, you know. Are you sure this is necessary? Yes, I am sure. I don't appreciate you undermining my judgment. I've had other gods do the same. And I do not need to be treated like a child. You may think. Compared to all the years you and my father have been around, I am a child in comparison, however. Age is just a number. And you of all people know that in this profession. You need to grow up quickly, yes. But I often wonder whether your father was too soft with you. Excuse me, well, I just find it rather strange that he hasn't confronted you about this war when he's spoken to me about it. He's spoken to you about it, I ask, shocked. Lucifer puts his hands in his pockets as he simply stares at me. Nodding, yes, he has. You may think he trusts you, Raven. But I'm not sure he entirely does. Are you saying my father has doubts in me? Everyone has doubts in people, Raven. You have doubts in the angel goddess, don't you? What? Of course I don't see. I would be inclined to believe you if I hadn't heard off Leo how you berated the girl for wanting to keep her child. Surely as the god of hell, you agree her giving birth to a demon is just a disaster waiting to happen. I could say the same for your brother's child. That is completely different. I solved that problem. And you couldn't solve this one the same way. Is he suggesting I'm being too rushed in my decision to be rid of the child? No, surely that is the only feasible solution. What else could I do? I can't risk the child of the Vampire King to be born after all. No, I couldn't. Are you not telling me something? Lucifer, Raven. There's a 50 chance that the child does not belong to your enemy. And there's also a 50 chance that the child will be born out of pure love. I don't like those odds, Lucifer. You're scared, Raven. Admit it. You're scared because you don't really know how to handle the situation. Destroying everything isn't the answer. I am not scared. I will be the future goddess of the underworld. I know exactly what I'm doing. So you intended to push your close friends away. Push them away, is that what I'm doing? No. I'd never aim to harm my friends, would I? This is just a small setback. Things will fix themselves soon enough. Raven, this isn't a typical argument with your friends. You threatened to kill Ally's future child. Do you not understand how scared she is? Like I said, it's just a setback. You can't treat your friends like tools for you to use whenever you want. They have feelings. I have never seen Leo so angry with you before in my life. But that is exactly what he is feeling right now. Leo's really angry with me indeed. He's so angry that he offered to take on torture duty. This is bad. Leo hates torturing souls. It's just not who he is. Sure, he is a demon. And he can be intimidating when he wants to. He gave up all the torturing when he was little. Do you understand now, Raven? This won't be a situation that will fix itself. You need to fix this. Well, what do you suggest I do? For starters, console Ally. And get the idea of terminating her child out of your head. It is her body, and if she wants this child, she is entitled to keep it. And then what do I do? Cancel this stupid war. What? Raven, you don't need a war to solve your problem with the Vampire King. All you need to do is put him in his place. With all due respect, Lucifer, I think my age has biased your judgment on this whole war. The Vampire King is dangerous. And the only way I can put him in his place is to strike him down in front of those that think highly of him. So I will take your advice and apologize to Ally and Leo. But this war will be happening, whether you or my father wants it to or not. Lucifer silently stares at me for a few minutes, the fire glowing brightly in his eyes. He finally sighs before he resumes speaking. I hope you know what you're doing, Raven. And with it he is gone in a puff of red smoke. Chapter 62. Whatever happened to friendship? It's strange getting advice from the devil, I mean. Not many people can claim they have consoled in good old Lucifer. So I shouldn't really take it for granted. But everyone, including my father, are still treating me like a child. I have been trained to become the next leader of the underworld. I have been raised to know all the in and outs of the supernatural world. Yet I am still being underestimated. Is there nothing I can do to make people believe in me? And then it hit me. The people that did believe in me I pushed away. I took them all for granted, gave Leo ally. All of them, they all trusted me. And I keep neglecting their faith. I threatened to kill ally's unborn child for Christ's sake. Why am I so stupid? I'm the future goddess of the underworld, yet I'm still making silly mistakes. I've gone through challenge after challenge in my life. Losing my powers. Facing my mother and witnessing her die right in front of me. Why am I doing this to myself? Why do I keep forgetting the one thing that should be important to me? My friends, maybe Lucifer was right. Maybe I am being hasty with a war. But I can't call it off, I've come too far for this. But perhaps I can have one civil meeting with the Vampire King. Maybe I can smooth things over. And if it ends in a war, then that's what the fates intended all along. But first I have more important matters to attend to. Sighing, I grip my scythe in hand as I begin to channel my powers, picturing ally in my mind. I need to find her, so I begin to use a power that had previous been made redundant. My hunting ability. Once I know who I am tracking, I can use my powers to track down this person. I've never really had to use it since when I was placed on soul duty. I would just seduce my victim into submission. The only one who ever fought me was Luke. I suppose I forgot about this ability back then. Why didn't I use it? It would have made life so much easier then again. The chase wouldn't have nearly been as much fun. Suppose that was my way of making my life interesting. Now I need to find ally. Where is she? I close my eyes as I search throughout the earth. But she's not there. Odd. She isn't with Callum after all. Is she hiding from me? I move my attention onto the underworld, wondering if she's hidden beneath my nose, but once again my powers draw up a blank. Then it hits me, of course she's not here. Leo would have hidden her in the one place I never would have expected her to be in. Hell, I narrow my search into the fiery depths, searching past the pits of molten lava, past the hot iron cages filled with tortured souls, until my vision locks onto a very familiar castle. And there she is, hidden in the highest tower, with tear-stained cheeks. Guilt floods my body as I see this. I need to fix this like Lucifer told me to. I need to make this right. So with that thought in mind, I tap my scythe 3 times on the ground until I too am transported in a plume of black smoke, traveling to the very tower ally is resting in. I open my eyes and I finally see her. She hasn't noticed me yet, but that could also be due to the fact she seems to be clutching a pillow to her face, muffled cries emanating from it. I clear my throat and immediately ally jumps from her position, making eye contact with me. Those pure irises of hers make it so difficult to keep a straight face. A part of me wants to leap into her arms and beg for her forgiveness, but another part of me wants to look away from them in shame. I know I'm wrong now, I really do. Ally, I'm here too. You stay away from me and my child. You will not harm any of us. Ally suddenly interrupts me, pointing her finger at me menacingly. No. I'm not here to hurt you, please let me explain. Explain? What do you need to explain exactly, Raven? You want me to kill my own child? My own flesh and blood? Even knowing how much family means to me, you expect me to just kill off my child as if it meant nothing to me? Ally, please, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I should never have said any of those awful things to you. I don't know why I did it. I was being irrational. I was being scared. A familiar voice pipes in, and as I turn around I am met with 2 amber eyes filled with a raging fire I had never seen aimed at me before. Leo, why are you here? Raven, haven't you done enough to poor Ally? Look, I'm here to apologize. I want to make things right. I want to amend my mistakes. Your apologies mean nothing, Raven. I know how you think. I know deep down in that black heart of yours you still want to kill the child growing inside of Ally. You can't stand the thought of someone more powerful than you being brought into this world. Leo, that is not fair. Look, I have made mistakes in my past, but I'm trying to avoid doing it once more. You wanted to kill your nephew. Do you remember that? Raven's silence fills the room. I feel Ally's eyes locked onto me. Filled with shock and disappointment, I turn to her. Ally, please let me explain. It's not what you think. You tried to kill your own nephew. Does family really mean so little to you? Ally, no, you don't understand the situation. Blake's child had the ability to kill a god. If the gods ever found out, they would only kill him themselves. I was just trying to kill him yourself, so that you could have all the glory. I suppose you do love your duty, Raven. Ally looks away from me. Tears dropping from her eyes, I turn to Leo, pleading to him with my eyes. Leo stares at me for a moment before crossing his arms over his broad chest. You messed up, Raven, and this time I'm not going to be the one to clean it up for you. Chapter 63. Alone. Leo, please. I know you don't believe I am being genuine, but I am. I had a talk with your father and... Oh, so that's the reason you're here. Because Dad tried to step in and play mediator. You know he's the devil, right? He doesn't exactly have the best intentions. But no, you wouldn't have thought about that, would you? Because Raven is too high and mighty to truly care what people's intentions really are. Leo, there's no need for sarcasm. You of all people should know that people can change. Yeah, I do know. I've seen it happen countless times. I've seen angels fall from heaven and work under me. I've seen demons decide to be good for a change. I've seen it all, Raven. But I have never seen you change. You've always been the same Reaper deep down. Cold and heartless, you know. I used to think you and your mother had nothing in common. But I did find one little similarity to prove you were every bit of a mommy's girl. You use people just like she did. You've never been my friend. You used Ally for your own gain. You're just as sick and twisted as Crow. Ally gasped as I stood there frozen. I despise anything to do with that woman. Yes, she did sacrifice herself for me. But that didn't make her a good person in the end. She used my father and tried to use Blake and I. She was a cruel being. And I have never wanted anything to do with her. And above all else, Leo knew that being compared to her is the worst thing imaginable for me. I wonder, is that why he did it? Did he really aim to hurt me that badly? You don't mean that, Leo, Ally says, looking at me with sympathy. Why on earth is she looking at me like that anyway? I don't need sympathy, certainly not from her. She's got the Prince of Hell at her beck and call. She doesn't need my stupid apology. She can raise that thing growing inside of her for all I care. I don't want anything to do with her anymore. She ruined my life. And she has the audacity to look at me like that. As if she cared. I am not my mother, I say, gritting my teeth in Leo's direction. He looks at me with that same damn grin he pulls whenever he thinks he's right. You sure about that, Raven? He says with a cocked eyebrow. My blood begins to boil. That woman abandoned me my whole life. Betrayed my father and my brother, and you have the audacity to accuse me of being similar to that witch. Let's break it down, shall we? Crow abandoned you. You were more than willing to abandon Ally at one point in time. You wanted nothing to do with her. You found her a pest. Crow betrayed your family. Well, what did you just do, Raven? You betrayed Ally and me. You betrayed our friendship. There's some similarities for you. Listen, guys, this is starting to get out of control. Why don't we just leave the conversation here and talk about it another time? We're all upset right now. After all, Ally pipes up. I look at her and all I see is rage. She's trying to show Leo she's better than me. She's trying to show him she's above me. She's the one being all high and mighty. All holier than thou. I can't believe I once saw her as a friend. I hate her, but then my gaze turns to Leo. My oldest friend. Were we even friends? Or were we just pushed together by our fathers? Because now I am seeing him in a new light. All our years of friendship is thrown away just for this pathetic girl. She's nothing compared to us. She may be descended from angel gods, but that's it. You both want me to become the villain, don't you? Just so you can have someone to blame. I tried to be better. I think I even did a little. I got my heart broken. I lost my powers. I even challenged a vampire king, all because of her. And now you two have the gall to stand in front of me and blame me just because I was thinking for the greater good for the first time in my life. I'm going to be the goddess of the underworld. I'm going to be the ruler of the dead. Keep your abomination for all I care. Let it fester inside you. One day you will see. One day you will all see that all along. I was right to be wary of the thing growing inside of you. But if you refuse to at least trust me that I was trying to do the right thing, then maybe you were never my friends at all. After all, friends never doubt each other. I hope you have a happy life, Ally. Truly I do. Well, as happy as it can be. And what's that supposed to mean, Raven? Leo grits out, well, since I no longer care for her, why should I continue on this pathetic war? Endanger thousands of lives just for her sake? No. I don't think so. Since I'll be calling off the war, and since there's a chance that child belongs to a certain vampire king, I will be withdrawing any protection I provided. But you don't need me, right, Ally? You never did. Not with that hellhound wrapped around your little finger. Are you going to tell him where I am ally stumbles? Goodness no, it has nothing to do with me. All I shall say to him is that my interests are now elsewhere and to consider our little declaration over. I'm sure he will be more than happy that his biggest threat will be stepping out of the way. Raven, you can't be serious. What you were going to do to that child was monstrous. But what you're proposing here is just diabolical. I cut Leo off. They both stand there gawping at me. Perhaps you were right, Leonardo. Perhaps I haven't changed. I just needed a wake-up call, and believe me, my eyes are wide open now. Chapter 64. Eyes wide open. With those words, I teleported myself back to the underworld. What on earth was I thinking? Was I really about to rescind the declaration of war? The gods were judging me for it. Perhaps I should take it back. But that just feels wrong. I know I started this war deep down for my friends, but can I really excuse countless casualties for the same friends that are abandoning me? It took me a while to realize I was shaking. Was I scared? I'm starting to think the whole "a reaper feels no emotion" was just a lie. I've felt so many emotions along my reaper journey. Perhaps even more. I just haven't realized what they are yet. There is one person who I think could help me think clearly. One person who helped me feel things I'd never felt before. I really thought I didn't want them in my life. But maybe I do without realizing. My heart wins over my head, and I'm transported to a small apartment block. One that I recognized from so long ago. I didn't even realize I was moving until I was knocking on the door, waiting desperately for the person to open it up. Hello, their voice comes from behind the door. A voice that sends tingles down my spine. Luke. I say tentatively. The door swings open and there he is. The very first boy I had ever fallen in love with. Raven, I didn't think you wanted to see me anymore. I don't know what I want anymore, I say, as I feel a few tears begin to trickle down my cheeks. Come and we can talk if you'd like. I'd like that. Luke moves to the side so that I can walk in. I see a small table and chairs set up in the corner and sit myself down on one. Luke sitting opposite me. We just sit there for a few moments, avoiding eye contact. I really didn't think I'd find myself back in this situation. I really didn't think I'd ever come back to him. He opened things in my heart I wasn't sure I wanted at the time. But people change. I've changed. Maybe I do want him in my life after the long, awkward silence. Luke is the first to break it. Do you hate me, Raven? I know I've done some things you don't agree with. But I wasn't lying when I said I cared for you. Were those the words I was longing to hear? That he did indeed care for me? No, they weren't. This isn't a fairy tale story, dear reader. This is my life. I live not far from hell. I'm not supposed to get a happy ending. That's why my friends abandoned me after all. Perhaps the fact that I shouldn't get my happily ever after makes me crave it all the more. Maybe once I've healed as a person, I can have a future with Luke. For now, his friendship and advice will have to suffice. I messed up, Luke. Ally's pregnant and I threatened to kill her unborn child. I throw my head into my hands, waiting desperately for the judgment to come dripping off his words. But it doesn't. Instead, I'm presented with the question why. He stares at me in such a way that makes me feel comfortable. His eyes are open, not narrowed like how Leo was with me. He's giving me a chance to give my side. And I never thought I would be so grateful to just be heard. There's this stupid prophecy, and if I let it come to pass, that wretched vampire king will have unimaginable power. The child will be uncontrollable. I can't let it happen. I just can't. Luke glances out the window for a few seconds, taking in my words when his gaze returns to mine. His eyes almost sparkle with curiosity. So the vampire king's the dad? Well, not exactly. It's rather complicated. There is a 50% chance he fathered the child, but also another 50% chance that Callum is the father. If he is, then I have nothing to fear. But I don't like those odds. You could simply wait till the child is born, or ask her to take a DNA test. I'm pretty sure those are a thing in pregnancy. It might not be that simple, Luke. The child is far from human after all. There's a possibility we won't know until the child is here, but by then I fear it will be too late. A single tear breaks its way free from my eye, cascading down my cheek only to be caught by a warm, familiar touch, a touch I crave dearly. Luke smiles at me as he dabs at my cheeks, making sure to catch any more fallen droplets. The way I see it, Raven, is you were given an impossible situation. Whatever conclusion you were coming to, someone would be unhappy. So you think I was right in what I did, I ask? Hopefully not exactly. I don't think you were wrong to react in the way you did. And I hold the same reasoning with Ally. Of course, she's bound to be upset it's her child. But perhaps there is another way to solve this. Maybe you two need to have a conversation with no outsiders. Just simply you two to explain your side and to give Ally a chance to give hers. You never know. You might even come to an agreement together. And just like that, the mortal boy I had fallen in love with has once again solved all my problems. Of course, I wasn't thinking straight when I first proposed the solution. I hadn't thought it all out. Perhaps there is another way to fix things. I can get my friends back after all, and maybe no killing will be involved. Without uttering another word, I jump out of my seat and give Luke a kiss on the cheek. I knew I was right to come here. Chapter 65, A Heavenly Messenger. After I left Luke's, I had one goal in mind. Make amends with Ally. I can't believe how wrapped up in my emotions I get. Maybe this is the consequence of repressing them for so long. Ally is the only person that has ever shown me kindness without a goal in mind. And I was really ready to just throw all that away. God, I'm an idiot. I transport myself back to my room in the underworld to start devising my plan. How could I do it so that I can make it clear the meeting will be on her terms? I can't just turn up on her doorstep with Leo acting as the guarding hellhound. But perhaps someone else could be my messenger. I frantically start searching through my drawers for some holy beads that once belonged to my feathery friend. Why do I have so much random bits of rubbish in here? As I continue my search, my hands graze past a small leathery book. I pause my search for a moment in favor of the book. Picking it up, I realize what it is. It's a photo album. I scan through the pages. Photos of me as a child next to my father in many different locations. Memories I once cherished. But it is the photo at the back that really catches me off guard. It's a photo of my mother holding me as a baby, my father at her side, and Blake as a young boy at their feet. We were all smiling. It's strange how such a photo can evoke such a sad feeling from deep within. How I long for this type of family dynamic once more. I just want to feel loved like I am in this photo. What dark magic possessed my mother to abandon all of this? My father loved her dearly. He worshipped the very ground she walked on. He made her immortal to spend the rest of their lives together. And she just threw it all away. Some part of me doesn't believe it could have been that simple. But now's not the time to dwell on what could have been. I need to focus on the here and now. Pushing the album aside, I finally lock my sight on a small white silk pouch. Picking it up, the contents inside clink like a heavenly bell sound. These were the beads I had been searching for. I untie the silken ribbon at the top of the bag and tilt it so 3 opalescent beads slide into the palm of my hand. Now how do I do this again? I start fumbling around with the beads, attempting different combinations of rolling and throwing and shaking until something clicks in my brain. I now know what I need to do. I place the 3 beads in a triangle formation on the ground, and I get onto my knees in a praying pose. Oh mighty Gabriel, please bless me with your presence in my time of need. The beads emit a heavenly light for a moment, and the whole room is lit with the essence of the heavens. When the lights dim, I look up to meet the eyes of a confused angel. Raven, you haven't used those beads in a long time. Well, you don't seem to grasp the concept of a mobile phone, so this was the next best thing. I say, dusting off my knees as I stand up. The fact that you're summoning me suggests you're desperate. Gabe says, raising an eyebrow at me. What? Can't I just contact my old friend for a good old catch-up over some tea and biscuits? Gabriel stares at me long and hard for a couple of seconds. Yeah, I didn't think you would believe that. That's because I can see through lies, Raven. You know the gift all angels possess, right? Anyway, you're correct, I've messed up. You haven't waged another war, have you? Is that what everyone thinks of me now? I don't think you want me to answer that question. You're right, I don't. I just need you to play messenger for me, Raven. You do realize there is a literal god whose task is to be a courier. I sigh, knowing all too well who he's referring to. But Hermes knows far too much about my personal life at the moment. Part of me is afraid he may use my secrets against me. I have little trust in gods like him. But at the moment he holds my favor, so I have faith he will keep everything locked away. At least for now. I had a feeling Ally may appreciate a message from an angel rather than a god. And Leo may be more willing to let you in her presence. What exactly happened, Raven? I may have been a little too hasty, got caught up in my emotions, and threatened to kill her unborn child. Raven Rouge Reaper, you didn't. Hearing the disappointment in his voice hits me like a knife to my heart. I value Gabriel's opinion very highly after all. I know it was wrong and I'll forever repent for it. But please, Gabe, I need your help now more than ever. Leo won't even look at me anymore. He won't give me the chance to apologize. But Ally might. If you could just pass on a message for me. Gabriel ponders over my request, looking at me, almost looking through my soul. He's checking to see if I truly have good intentions. He's good at his job after all. Finally, after the few moments of silence, he speaks up. You know, I could never say no to you. But listen to me, Raven. I'll pass on your message under the condition that you fix all of this mess. Ally is valued very highly up in heaven, and I don't want you to be on her bad side. She will definitely be of use to you in winning this war with as little casualties as possible. What would you like me to say? Oh, thank you, Gabe. This means the absolute world to me. All I want you to do is ask Ally for a peace meeting. She can choose the time and place. It will all be under her conditions. She can bring whoever she likes, and I will come alone. Please just reiterate to her that I truly am sorry. I just don't know what came over me. I feel a tear roll down my cheek as I think over my actions. I don't want to lose Ally as a friend. Like Gabe said, not only is she useful, she is also a vital person to have on my side. I need her far more than she needs me. And she knows that it's all right, Raven. You're going to fix things. And don't beat yourself up too much. You're new to the whole emotional will, remember. I'm just glad you're finally embracing them. Gabriel comes over and gives me a quick hug for comfort. I cling onto his warmth for as long as I can until he pulls away with a somber smile. I'll go deliver your message if she has a reply. I assume you will either hear it from me or Leo. Part of me hopes it will be Leo so you can fix things with him too. Yes, that would be a good thing. Now I'll be off. Once you've sorted all of this mess, maybe we can have that catch up over some tea and biscuits. I laugh. I would love that, Gabriel. Gabe smiles that heavenly smile before saluting to me and vanishing in a flash of holy light. I'm counting on you, Gabe.